Scott's expressed concern about this is the factor that Mr. Alexander has in fact driven families out of town before that knew about what he was up to. Well, effectively, he got them fired from their jobs, ruined their reputations, and left them with no other choice but to leave, even if they still wanted to be able to build a future life for themselves. Elves in the threat that Alexander is making, and when he says this will put him in a ditch, is either he'll end up dead or his family will end up in a lot of debt. Or just be driven out of town. He's basically saying, and look, you don't have a choice in the matter unless you want things to end up as shit for you. And Azrael here is sick of watching Scott suffer. Alright, is trying to convince him to tell someone, anyone. But what he's forgetting is that nobody in this town is going to listen to them. Unless they have proof. Like solid ass proof. But right now they're in a school where they aren't exactly Mr. Popular. Or a school that even has security cameras. And so the odds of them being able to get believed in this town are pretty much stacked against them. And then Scott is trying to prevent Vincent's reputation from being ruined. And so he's basically just saying, and look, Azrael, I cannot afford to do this. Now, as always, his animatronics, Pluto and Apollo, are always waiting for him to come home. Because since an incident into where they used to come to school with him, and they have to remain at home because of what happened with the incident with Pluto and Mr. Alexander. Essentially, Pluto saw the abuse that Alexander was doing into Scott. Essentially, Pluto saw Alexander shove Scott out into the wall. And decided to bite Mr. Alexander. Alexander retaliated, breaking the small animatronic's arm. Scott kicked him between the legs, picked up the two animatronics, and ran. And to the Pizza Plex to have Pluto's arm repaired. But Alexander said absolutely nothing of this incident. And because he knew that it would wind up with the kid being questioned, and with it checking in with the animatronic. So he knew he couldn't report the incident, and without it coming back to bite him in the ass. Essentially, Scott nor Alexander can afford her to move carelessly. Because what Alexander is doing can get him thrown in jail. What Scott is trying to do would probably get his family driven out of town by Alexander's. Or not to mention that they'd be silenced. It's basically like hush money type situation. Now, why they're looking like this is because of the fact that they see his expression on his face. Hey, so something was okay, this is not the way your face would generally look. The expression that he's giving is more of a nervous one. And so it definitely doesn't read as everything's okay. It reads as I'm lying through my teeth right now. Scott is ultimately trying not to wind up yelling at Sonny. He is just saying, hey, can we please drop this? It's essentially he's trying to walk away from this situation as quickly as possible without alerting in the animatronics that there is actually something wrong. Pluto and Apollo are the only two that actually know that something is wrong. Now what Scott is doing right here is drawing pictures of the animatronics, his friends, and his family. That is mainly what Scott does with this notebook. Like, essentially, he expresses the majority of the things in his life through art. And Apollo likes watching him draw. Whereas Pluto just likes sleeping next to him. Now keep in mind, this is the middle of the night. And Moon is going to check up on him. Why he's not dropping it is because if someone can't say, hey, well, looking you straight in the eyes are most likely lying to your face. Now, what he's pointing out is something that is true. Scott has never lied to Sonny or Moondrop before. But this was when he was 10. And so up until that point. And so they're just used to a kid who doesn't lie to them. Scott knows that he could probably tell them. But the factor is they're probably going to wind up telling Vincent. And so he's like, no, I cannot tell them. Because I'm no longer in a position that I can tell them. Moondrop is pressed in this situation because he is concerned about Scott. That is basically saying, and hey, if you don't tell me, I gotta tell somebody that something's up. Because I'm worried. This however causes Scott to panic, and because this situation could just spiral out of control. And Scott is well aware of this. Edison doesn't want Moondrop to tell him.